you've opened and played alongside and played with every major name in the progressive house scene and outside of the progressive house scene.
Exactly.
John Digweed, Nick Warren, Hernan Cattaneo, the Anthony Papas of the world. We hear that message. Follow your heart.
Follow your heart, exactly. I heard it a million times and I never done it. And it took me 27 years to finally get discovered internationally, you know. It's not the first time I actually passed out in an airport. I lose my flights to I don't know, to India, and I had to pay that from my own pocket. It's not the first time that's happened because I was shattered, I was tired, I just passed out.
Like, do you miss that you had to sacrifice having a family?
You know, people who really love electronic music, we are in the same room, you know, it all brings us together, and no matter what history you have, no matter what your parents were from, or what race or what religion, no, we're just bounded together listening to electronic music.
Ruby, also known as Ruby and Friends.
Ruby and Friends is more the brand name of my events.
Cool.
Ruby and Friends are my events I do in Malta.
Okay.
You know, but as an artist, I'm known as DJ Ruby.
DJ Ruby.
And I've been like that for the past 32 years now.
Incredible.
DJ Ruby.
I think about that and I'm like, wow, 30 years in the electronic music scene, you've seen so much change.
Right in the beginning, back from the days of when technotronic or pump up the jam was the music that people used to listen to, you know, so.
And it's changed so much.
Yeah.
But it also has such a history, and being someone that's still relatively new to this space, it's so cool to get to speak with someone like you. And thank you to our friend Yanina Vargas.
Put us together, and now we're in Buenos Aires.
I know, I was just going to say.
And a Maltese guy and a US guy, you know, meeting on the far downside of the world.
It's so crazy. We're here in Buenos Aires. I came here to check out the music scene, and thankfully our schedules lined up because you're here in Argentina. When's your next gig?
I was playing in Colombia.
Okay, you were there before.
I was playing in 2 cities in Colombia. Now I came to do a show in Argentina, San Luis, and now I have to go back to Europe to do a show in Europe. Then I go to China, and so the timing is good, you know. We're lucky that we cross paths, you know.
Yeah.
A couple of months we were trying to, rather than doing it like online, do a proper interview live, you know.
I think the interview's done in person, just from a production quality,
much better.
The footage is better, and the conversations are
much better.
Yeah, you're in person. So I'm really thankful that you take the time out to speak with me.
It's an honor for me, you know, I know you're doing a very good job with your podcast and with your social media channels. So, and we're looking forward to share my experiences with you.
Same. Thank you so much. So, DJ Ruby, production side and the event side is Ruby and Friends. You've got 30 years of a career in this industry, and your resume, if we're going to have resumes in music, is bar none. It is, you've opened and played alongside and played with every major name in the progressive house scene and outside of the progressive house scene.
Exactly.
John Digweed, Nick Warren, Hernan Cattaneo, the Anthony Papas of the world, the Celadors and Dave Siemens of the world, and the Carl Coxes of the world.
Faithless, Prodigy, Underworld,
you know, so Orbital, you know, you've been on
these acts that came to Malta back in the years. I was lucky enough to get to warm up for them, you know. So
wow. So it's so cool because you have such a breadth of experience in not only working alongside or opening for these artists, but also in curating the Maltese electronic music.
I was one of the very first to start things in the island, you know, and you know, I was very responsible to seeing the island and turning up into a very popular party hub, you know, these days.
It is popular now.
It is very popular, you know. The dance music is quite good, the dance music scene. And remember, Malta is a very small country. It's like you can't even see it on the map, you know. You really need to zoom, you know, and to see where's my country. But it's quite good, you know. It's quite good. We had our bad days, we had better days, but it's still good, you know. It's still good. And I'm very proud of my country, and I'm very proud that I'm one of the persons that started things off in Little Malta.
So, and you were running all of those through Pure Promotions, right?
Before I was doing events under Pure Promotions,
Okay.
I was literally unknown in the international scene for many years. Why? Because my events were so big in Malta that I didn't need to focus on an international scene. I was doing big events for a very long time. All my events were successful, you know, so I was literally just focusing on being the local guy with the events that I used to pull 3,000 people, 2,500 people, and when you have that amount of people, you just keep on doing that. Although I always had a dream that someday I'll be recognized in the international scene, and thankfully, after many years, it's happening now, you know, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's, like, you really got to see the birth of the scene. You helped create the birth of the scene in Malta. And now you're taking the next steps, moving outside.
Exactly.
Of that.
I mean, it was either or I had to stop because after many years doing events in Malta, of course, new generations come up, music change, new promoters. All of a sudden, my events, I wasn't pulling 3,000 people anymore because the scene was getting quite wider and new music styles, So it was either okay, or I let myself kind of like die down in the local scene, or I take a step which I always wanted to do and try and take on the international scene. And it worked for me, As soon as I started to get recognized in the international scene, I'll tell you in a moment what was the trick to do that. Then COVID came, and I used the COVID time in my favor. I invested in a very nice studio, and I used to do regular live streams, and my fan base internationally grew. And when COVID stopped, I started to get booked. So I'm really grateful for that,
Wow.
So.
Talk about pivoting. Talk about making the change that needed to happen at the right time, going into live streams.
Live stream, I use that time in my favor.
Wow.
And going back, if you had to ask me what was the thing that made you recognizable, like internationally, before, when I was just focusing on Malta, I always loved progressive house. That's my scene. The progressive house scene and everything that goes with it, the melodic and everything. But in Malta, I used to do events of different styles. I used to have my underground events. I used to have my mainstream events. I used to have the classics events. I used to do events where I used to play retro music. And when you are in a local scene, the local crowd would accept that. But in the international scene, you can't be one day playing progressive and one day playing mainstream and one day it's, so that's why I never managed to get an international and fan base. But then the day came when I said, okay, I'm just going to do what I truly love, So I said, okay, I love progressive house, so I'm just going to do that, and I went full on into it. I lost a lot of people in my country because before I used to be vast and everyone used to like my music, but now I went into a more specific, which is a smaller crowd in my country, but I opened doors all over the world, and thankfully enough, I got discovered not from my discography, but from my mixes. I really put a lot of time into curating nice mixes, different, putting a lot of elements in my mixes. And at the end of the day, I'm a performer. I've always been a performer since 1991, and I managed to grab the attention of international promoters. And here I am today in Buenos Aires,
Incredible.
That's my shift, in a nutshell.
So about what time approximately was that shift?
So when I decided that, okay, I'm just going to do progressive house, this was in 2015.
Okay.
So in 2015, all of a sudden, my events in Malta went really like for a smaller crowd. I started to do smaller events in Malta.
Okay.
Thankfully enough, at the same time, Guy J moved to Malta.
Oh, wow.
He lives like 5 minutes away from me, So we became friends, and I started this concept called DJ Ruby Secret Series.
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
DJ Ruby and Friends.
Yep.
Which Ruby and Friends was a concept I was doing in the late 90s, mid 2000s, which I had stopped, but I restarted to do it again, and I started to get guests like Guy J, Sid Dink, Emi Galvan, Subandrio. So I started to build like the progressive scene again in Malta, and at the same time I was getting recognized all over the world, and by 2018, 2019, I had more people that follow me internationally than from my own country,
Wow.
Then the bookings started to come in, of course, throughout this years as a promoter, I have a lot of contacts. I know a lot of people around the world. Hernan had played for me back in the day. I used to do Renaissance parties as well when Renaissance was
You
very
had
big.
a residency with them, right?
Because I used to do the Renaissance events in Malta. So I was a Renaissance Malta resident, you know. So I had my contacts and things started to go pretty well. Bookings started to come in. Then, as I said, COVID came in and I used the time in my favor.
Wow, so cool. So the last 10 years has been a big shift for you.
A really big shift, you know, really big shift. So now it's like my new me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like after all those years playing, you know, there were people that were in my country telling, listen, Ruby, you had your run. I think it's about time, you know, you put your headphones down. At the same time, I also started a media company when I saw that my events weren't pulling as much people, and I was doing after event movies and basically working with all the big promoters in Malta, you know.
Wow.
But then I said, man, I miss doing events, you know. I was still DJing, you know, but I was putting all my time into my media company. I said, okay, no more media company for me. I love Progressive House. I'm just gonna do what I really love, what my heart wants me to do. And I followed my heart, and things started to turn, and new career started for me, you know, the birth of a new career.
It's so interesting when, because a lot of times we hear that message, follow your heart.
Follow your heart, exactly. I heard it a million times, and I never done it, you know.
Same.
But when you do it, Ryan, it works.
And I'm starting to do it, and it's working.
Yes. It takes time.
It takes time.
Ryan, it took me 27 years to finally get discovered internationally, you know.
Because I'll be honest with you, I hear that for a lot of times, and I just say bullshit.
That's what you think, you know.
And I'm like,
it works. It works.
But when I think you come from a place of, no, I really love this, whatever it is. It could be finger painting, it could be DJing, it could be software engineering. You have this earnest, like real, genuine love for what you're doing. People just feel that.
And people are going to tell you, no, don't do it.
Yeah.
No, you're not going to make money. You're not going to live. You need a proper job.
And you're not going to make money in the beginning.
Definitely not, you know. Everything
That's
is
scary.
That's very scary. And everyone's going to tell you, no, it's impossible. But as you were saying, if you really believe in it, it will happen. But you really need to believe in it.
And I think people like you are a testament to that, where you sit down and you say, man, it took me 27 years.
To finally get discovered internationally, you know, so it's a long time.
And I think as like a lot, like practicing patience.
Exactly.
Is
it took me 27 years to realize why. But why? I know that I was putting out good material, but I was doing multiple styles, and you'll get people mixed up, you know. So I just said, okay, let me just do the one thing I really like. You know, the one thing that it's really in my heart, Progressive House.
That you could do every day.
And I said, I'm just going to do that. And, you know, I changed my social media, you know, I removed the stuff that it wasn't me, and I just kept the stuff that it's really me, and I got discovered.
So I want to ask you a little bit more about that, because in marketing terms, that's a rebrand.
A rebrand, right? Exactly, that's what
on a personal level, on an artist level, when you do a rebrand, a lot of times, and this might not be true for you, but I find that, you know, for myself, I attach my identity sometimes to whether it's Medtronica or whether I was an athlete in my former life. I've mentioned that on the podcast a couple of times. Like, our identity can get attached to that. So when you're going through this rebrand of, I'm going to move from all these different styles. I have a following in Malta. People know me. People are coming to my events. I'm going to risk that and just do what my heart loves. Like, how did that play out for you mentally? Like, did you feel anything about that? Were you scared? Like, how did you internalize that?
I was sad. I was sad that I knew that I had to do something. You know, it was about time. I saw that my events in Malta where I wasn't pulling as much people because, of course, there were new generations, new promoters. And when I saw, like, from having big events in Malta, everything went down, you know, slow. And then, you know, you put out content and you don't see any reaction from local people anymore. My own people, my own friends. And But I was lucky enough to see an increase from people from Sri Lanka, India, Argentina. They were posting and relating with my music. At first I was very sad, Still to this day, I still feel like that I would like to get more attention from my people, from my country, I still sometimes feel it, because for many years, I was just relating with my local people. But these days, of course, I have more feedback from people over the world. But yeah, it made me sad, I was not worried, sad. That's the exact word. I was sad, I was sad.
Because it becomes a part of who you are.
Exactly. Malta was everything for me, I grew up there. I made a good living there, all my events, all feedback was in my own language, and all of a sudden you're losing that. The new generation in Malta, many people, they don't even know about me, but at least, thankfully enough, then I opened the international door, which is a huge door, so.
For sure. During that time period, what did you do for yourself? Because we all go through those depressive states, or we're sad about something's not working out. Was there anything that you did to keep yourself grounded, or your spirits high, or like what did
I said, okay, I kept on pushing more my name into the international scene.
Okay.
So when I used to get sad if I don't receive any feedback from the local crowd, I was receiving more feedback from people all over the world.
Cool.
So that balanced things out for me, which
helpful.
I'm grateful for that, So that helped me, that helped me a lot.
Definitely, because I can imagine if you didn't have the feedback
from, I would be not in a very good state, because I've been doing this since I was 14 years old, so the music scene, doing events, it's like I'm hooked. It's like a drug for me, I can't live with it, I tried, to move to another job, which is media.
Yeah.
I was a cinematographer, a very good video editor, I learned graphic design and everything. It's good, it's fine. But music, it's what keeps me living, Of course, now I use the skills I learned from my media company. I use them for my DJ Ruby brand, my artist work and my social media content and whatever.
And you have to these days.
Yes,
you're doing
right.
both.
It's you can't just be a good producer or a good DJ. You need to be a good DJ, a good producer, some knowledge about social media marketing. You need to at least have basic knowledge of video editing and graphic design, because you need to put out good content. And if you're starting out as an artist, even if you are an established artist, you can't afford to pay graphic designers or videographers to do your videos. You need to learn at least the basics, so.
For sure, so you don't get, one, taken advantage of.
Exactly.
And two, have an understanding of how the business works.
And how these days, once you started to learn Ableton, for instance, you need as well learn how to use Final Cut Pro or Adobe Pro, and you need to learn Photoshop. So, guys, it's important you learn all these things together. Of course, Ableton it's something you really need to know how to use, Ableton or Logic Pro, whatever, to music. But you also need to learn other programs and, like you said, social media marketing, at least some basic knowledge about how things work.
I agree. Being in that sphere as well, less on the DJing side, but on the content side,
your main career. Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, you. There's no option. Otherwise, no one's gonna know.
Exactly. You can be the best producer in the world or the best DJ in the world. It's not enough. Sometimes I get artists who are very good producers, and very good DJs, far better more than me, They have very good experience, but people are not discovering them. And they end up asking me for advice how to do that, Just put out content. Very important, content, videos, whatever, whatever you can put out, put something. These days, the quality needs to be good, I mean, don't put out a shaky video, try to at least get some good footage, stable your shot and have some light or something, at least basic stuff, which of course help.
For sure. I couldn't agree more. The quality of production
is good. Doesn't need to be super professional, but good enough for people not to swipe away.
Exactly. Creating content with value.
With value, exactly right.
And this is what I want to ask you next, right? You talked about not being able to live without music, right? What is it? Because Medtronica, we focus on electronic music.
For music in general.
In general. More so like the electronic music I like, because I'm biased and I'm running the ship. So we venture into certain areas. Progressive house is one of them that I love because it's what
It's my life. It's my life.
It's where I like first learned about electronic music, and then
you connect mostly as well with the genre, yeah?
Yeah, I really do connect most. I would say that, weirdly enough, it's that and like old school Chicago and like disco house.
Okay.
Just like the soulful feel good.
That's how I started off. I started off in the 90s playing house music on vinyl.
I love it. It speaks to my soul. And I don't know what that says, but I really, really love it.
Because it's a very human music. It's very human.
You have the vocals, which are from the soul. You have, I think that's a great way.
The percussions are raw.
It's
I call
raw.
it human. I actually learned this word yesterday. I was at a house gathering event with some artists, and someone actually told me this word. Why I like so much music from the early 90s, because it was very human. Very human.
I like that term and that's another reason, not just the house, the Chicago house, but also like raw primal techno.
The early techno.
It's primal.
Exactly.
And it's like, it's also very human because it's like
raw.
But I want to ask you, what is it about electronic music that you absolutely love? Like, there are parts of us, and I want to explain this very granularly for people, because a lot of times this question gets asked and they're like, what do you love about electronic music? Or like, what do you love about music? It's like, no, what like makes you feel alive? What about electronic music makes you feel like, wow, this is for me?
Oh, I think quite a few things. But I think the main thing is that it really brings people together, no matter what race you are, what religion you are. And now with all these wars happening, and Russia, Ukraine, and Palestine, Israel, people who really love electronic music, we are in the same room, it all brings us together. And no matter what history you have, no matter what your parents were from, or what race or what religion, we're just bounded together listening to electronic music, and it's all brings us together. We don't care, about history or where you were born. I think that's the main reason. The main reason why I personally like electronic music. I'm a very people's person. I like making friends. I like connecting with people, and I think this is the main reason, I think, why I love electronic music so much. It brings people together, no matter what, like I was saying, like history or race or religion you are.
We were talking about that before, right?
Of course, it's an escape as well in life, So.
For sure. And look, I actually did a post on escapism before.
Okay.
Where,
Interesting.
you can use escapism as a positive, right? We go to the club, we go to these shows sometimes to just like let go of the problems of the day.
After you spend the whole week working or studying, whatever,
You just got to kind of let it go for a reset, so that way you can come back, because otherwise you just go, and you burn out, and it doesn't end well. But we were talking about this before, where you're traveling to Pakistan.
I was there like 3 weeks ago, Pakistan.
And as someone from me from the States, I get fed a lot of bad media.
Exactly. And then
about places from all over the world.
Or I was in Russia.
You're exactly. So prime example.
Russia, like everyone, don't go there,
Perfect example. Mm-hmm. You're in Russia how many weeks ago?
2 months ago.
2 months ago.
I was for a whole month.
Okay, so you're in Russia for a whole month with everything going on. That's not a place I think of like,
you would
I'm going to go travel.
Yeah, or party there.
Exactly.
Or party there.
But to your point, this music resonates so deeply with people and is so powerful. It's bringing people together in the worst times.
In the worst times, exactly. And I don't know if I was a Jew, for example, and I went to play in a Muslim country for a Muslim crowd, I think they wouldn't mind. I think, I think it's not that easy to happen, but if it had to happen, if I'm playing, it wouldn't mind at all, because again, electronic music, it brings us together, Or for example, before I went to Russia, people were telling me, they're gonna hate you. You're European, and Russia and Europe, they're not on good terms. People are gonna hate you there. No, I went there, everyone was so kind to me, and actually people were more interested, like, what do people think about us, that was the question that Russian people were asking me, because sometimes media and regular people, no one wants war. Regular club on the dance floor is not a politician, no one wants war, so that's from my experience, electronic music, it does bring people together, no matter what your background is,
I agree. It transcends cultures, race, boundaries, political views. There's nothing like being on the dance floor. And you could have had an argument with this person 30 minutes ago.
But then that's it, I've been in clubs where you have Pakistanis and Indians dancing together. But history tells us that Pakistanis and Indians, they don't like each other. But no, on the dance floor, no problem. They were all dancing in front of me, and I'm using this example, Pakistani producers and Indian producers working together, remixing each other with no problem at all, Or Russian producer and Ukrainian producers working together, so music brings us together, electronic music does brings us together.
That's the clip right there.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
It's it. So I want to know, every artist is different.
Yeah.
And every artist and their creativity is different, which I think is one of the most beautiful things about, one, being an artist, and two, music. What were some tracks that impacted you, maybe early on in your career?
Early 90s, in the early 90s.
What were some of those?
Although when I was doing events in Malta, I was doing multiple different styles or vibes, progressive house was always in my heart, I discovered, rather than tracks, was more the compilation series of Renaissance, Sasha and Digweed. I remember listening for the very first time The Collection by Sasha and Digweed, listening to Age of Love, all the early piano progressive house that Sasha and Digweed used to play in the 90s. The Northern Exposure series by Sasha and Digweed and Global Underground. So rather than tracks, was more a series. Back in those days, internet was still in its infancy. So, we used to buy CDs, and I would say my very, very, very first memory of really falling in love with the progressive sound was definitely The Collection, Renaissance The Collection by Sasha and John Digweed. And then, of course, I was like many people my age, I was a huge fan of Sasha and John Digweed, so I would say that a series rather than tracks.
That series, for so many people, has sparked inspiration.
And it still sounds good, still sounds
good. Till this day, it still holds up.
Listen to Northern Exposure by Sasha and Digweed, the Expeditions, or the early Global Underground, Ryan. It still sounds good.
They still sound amazing, and Nick Warren said the same thing to me when I interviewed him in Miami. He said, there's not much today that was like what Northern Exposure did for that time. He's like, I don't know that there's stuff that's happening like that today.
I don't think so, Ryan. I don't think so. I have to agree with Nick Warren's statement. And it wasn't like one or two. There were many series. That Global Underground, the New Breed came out, and all these compilations, they sound amazing. So I would recommend to new artists these days who want to get into the scene which I'm into, which is the progressive scene, I would recommend to everyone, listen to the roots where our music came from, Still sounds amazing to this day, and get inspired from there. Get inspired.
I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, because I'm going back through my record box and I'm sorting all the music. I don't have a ton of tracks, I have like 1,000 tracks, but I'm focusing on finding music that's new to me, that's from
that
era.
Or maybe a bit closer, maybe.
Yeah, a bit closer.
8 years ago as well.
8 years ago, even 2001, going back that.
You'll still find.
I still am finding tracks that you can play on the dance floor today, and they'll still hold up. Whether it's progressive, whether it's house, whether it's electronica.
I do that all the time. I have done a couple of loops, maybe some nice hi-hat loop, or I fix up a DQ, you know, maybe add a little bass line there, but it's still there, you know, can still play. Maybe slower tempo, because back in the day the tempo was faster, you know, progressive. Actually, we didn't used to call it progressive house, we used to call it progressive trance. We used to say progressive trance, you know?
Because these are the days of the Ferry Corsons of the world,
or you
of
listen
Paul Van Dyk's.
the early stuff of Armin van Buuren.
Old Armin van Buuren,
Really,
real trance.
really
Incredible.
good. You put progressive trance.
Yeah,
you know?
it's progressive trance, for
there
sure.
was a track called Armin Fear. It was on one of Sasha's and John Digby's compilation, and I still remember the track like I have it still on vinyl, you know, like it was a tune, you know. So progressive trance, yeah. So if you try to play it these days, you know, the tempo needs to be slower, you know, but it can still work. You know, it can still work.
So interesting how I think sometimes we need to look backwards in order to go forward. I don't always think the answer is, yes, the answer is moving forward, but a lot of times inspiration, we see a lot of artists these days that are remixing classic tracks from the 70s.
From the 70s, yeah.
And they're hits because they're classic tracks.
Yeah, and some people don't know that. They think it's a new, fresh track. But in reality, we're getting everything from back in the day.
Bringing history with us into the future.
Exactly.
So then one of the next questions I want to ask you is, you know, part of Medtronica, it's a very human element. We all have struggles, and one of my things is mental health and how electronic music helps us with mental health.
Yeah.
For me, I will do, and this may sound weird to some people, but I'll put on a techno set and I'll just close my eyes and meditate and see what comes up.
Wow.
And that's exactly, wow. Some people are like, you're crazy.
Exactly. Some people think you're crazy, but in reality it works.
It works.
You know?
And it's the same thing with progressive house. I'll throw on like a soundscape of just like the same loop for a while, and that's for me is meditation. Closing my eyes on the dance floor last night at Bart Skills, just getting lost in the beat. That's for me how I process some of my thoughts, emotions, whatever. But for you, how does electronic music help you with your day-to-day or like on a mental health?
Well, some people must think I'm crazy as well, you know, because I literally, Ryan, dedicated my life to this, you know. I'm not saying that everyone should do this, but it worked for me. You know, when I say I literally dedicated my life to this, I work 24/7. I'm doing something that I love. You know, something that makes me a living. Sometimes you do something that makes me nothing, you know, but I still like it. And personally, it works for me when I give all my time to it. In a normal human life, it's not healthy, you know, but in my case, it helped me. You know, it's the one thing that makes me happy, you know, it's the one thing that makes me survive, you know what I mean? I'm not saying it's good, but in my case, if you're asking me this question, I'm being really honest, you know, I just put all the time in the world I have into this, you know, but that's for me, you know, but then I sacrificed a lot of things. I sacrificed having a family, I sacrificed going to weddings, I sacrificed spending more time with my friends, with my family, so I had to sacrifice other things for this, you know, but I'm happy. You know, and this is what makes me happy, and this wasn't my case, you know. Some people think I'm crazy, but this worked for me, you know.
And that's something I want to ask you about is, you know, I think that's a part of the industry that gets overlooked quite a bit. We see artists getting on planes, we see artists...
It's not easy, Ryan.
It's not easy.
Not easy.
I can't imagine what that schedule's like.
It's not glamorous at all.
It's not.
Especially when you are in the underground scene, you know, because remember in the underground scene, you're not getting paid as David Guetta or the big guys, you know, it's a small scene, so you know, you make money just to, you know, to live, you know what I mean? I'm not going to say you have a super good earning, but just to live like a normal job. But you need to travel, man, you need to don't sleep, different time zones. It's not the first time I actually passed out in an airport. I lose my flights to I don't know, to India, and I had to pay that from my own pocket. It's not the first time that happened because I was shattered, I was tired, I just passed out, you know. I lose the flight and the promoter's not going to pay you that. I had to pay for that. So it's not easy, you know. It's not easy.
And that is starting to be talked about more, which I think is really good because that weighs a lot on people's mental health, right?
It does.
The three core things I've found are you need sleep, you need food, and you need, of course, sunlight, but like you need to hydrate. You need like, if you get those three things down.
I need to work on number 1 and number 3.
We all.
Food, no problem. I need to work on my sleep, and I need to work on sunlight as well, which is just, you're saying perfectly well, that's what we need.
So, but the other part of that is, while you're touring and doing all this, you have to try your best to maintain like sleep schedule, food, and try and get some exercise in whenever you can. But mainly, I want to talk about sacrifices. These artists, you're touring all year long. You're going from one summer in Ibiza or in the Mediterranean.
When you say touring, it can be not touring just in one country. It
No.
can be like me. I'm in Buenos Aires next week. I'm in Croatia. Then 3 days after, I'm in Guangzhou in China.
Exactly.
You know, that's touring all in January.
Touring internationally, because this scene is so large and the demand is there. There's always a party
From
to play.
different places in the world.
But you're going all around, so it's very hard for people to have a quote unquote normal life, a family,
and a healthy
and
life.
a healthy life. So, is that something like? Do you miss that you had to sacrifice having a family? Do any of those things? Not that you have regret, because you say you're happy, and I believe you.
But you do at the end of the day.
But do you think about that at all?
Yes, I do. You know, I do. I pray as well. I pray to God to gives me energy to keep on doing this, because sometimes I get scared that I will come to the house, no more, you know. But you know, with all these sacrifices and all these things that you miss, once I get into the club and you see the connection with the people, you know, you have a music, then you know what you say, man, this makes it all worth it, you know. But I do sometimes worry, you know, that I'm gonna over push myself, you know. Even people that love me, you know, my family, my mother, you know, they'll tell me, watch out, you know, because it's important to take care of your health, you know. And about the other sacrifices, yes, I do, but I've been doing this for so long, you know, that it's like I got used to it, you know. These days, close friends, they don't even invite me for their own wedding because they know I'm going to be playing somewhere, you know. So, yeah, but there are things that you worry about. Mostly, I worry about my health, you know, that you really need to take care of your health, because you can't do this if you have if you don't have a good health. If you get sick or you break down, you can't do this. You know, so you need to take care of your health, you know, in order to be able to continue to this, both your body and both your mental health.
And that's something I've noticed from talking to the people like the Hernans of the world and the Nicks who have done this for their whole life.
Respect to them, you know, they have family, and, you know, people like Guy J, for instance, you know, who happens to be a good friend of mine, you know, he's a good father, has family, he travels all the time, produces really good music, you know, so I have huge respect for these people, you know.
They're machines, in my opinion.
But they're grounded, you know.
And that's incredible, you know, that they can be grounded and do that. And I found that there's multiple things, right? You need a really good team around you that's traveling with you, and you need to get sleep.
Which is important.
Super important. And you need to get good food, and you can't really party.
Exactly. You can't do drugs, you know. No. You can't hang out at after parties.
Don't
you need
go
to be
to the
sober,
after party.
because then it's a story for disaster, you know. You can't achieve, you know,
and
things.
Would you say, is there anything else that you would like to do that could improve your health while touring?
Yes. Like,
is it possible? Like, what is something that is feasible?
It is possible, you know.
Okay.
I need to really work on my sleep.
Okay.
I know that for sure on my sleep. Maybe sunlight, maybe okay, because I'm a studio guy, you know, but sleep.
Okay.
It's so important. When sometimes I don't sleep for 2 or 3 days because of my work, you start doing things not the right thing. But when you get sleep, those 6-5 hours sleep, come on, you can be anywhere, you know. I can do that, you know what I mean? So once you sleep, you're fresh, you do things much better, you know. So I think sleep is the most, and stay sober. I don't drink myself, you know, which helps, you know. So staying sober, food of course, but I think the number one is sleep, you know. So you reset your brain and your body. I
would agree with you, not from like a standpoint of I'm a touring DJ. I'm not. I'm just a regular
And I'm
person.
saying something about something that I need to fix.
Yeah, totally.
People close to me most probably saying, Ruby, but you're the one that don't sleep well,
Yeah.
But I know that I need to fix that, my sleeping routine.
And that's really good that you know that. And it's
I know
also,
that.
It's also really good that you're aware that, you just need to be conscious of, okay, while I'm touring, I need to take care of my health. Because I think I don't know a lot of younger artists, but I think that is really valuable knowledge that can be passed down to the younger artists in the world that are like new to the scene, they're excited, they're talented,
Maybe they're pushing,
and they're partying.
and all of a sudden they made a name for themselves, they're about to start touring, and they're not
Exactly.
prepared, and after a few months doing it, boom, they give up. Because it happens, it happens, So be prepared for good sleep.
And I think about how can I contribute to this scene, this industry, right? How can I serve and help people in this way? And like I'm creating content around a topic I really care about, but also like if this is one of the main things that artists can use help with, because I hear this over and over, sleep. I'm thinking, man, what is something that we can do as a community to come together to collectively and be like, how can we help artists get better sleep? And I don't have an answer right now, and I'm not asking you for an answer, but it's just something that I'm thinking about constantly in the background, because artists come and they play clubs, we bring them food, right? We want to take care of them.
Exactly.
I have artists come to Miami, well, I'm going to take them out to dinner, right? We're going to go get food.
Food, you can always get food.
But I can't come
and make him sleep.
Yeah.
Go to sleep.
It's not going to happen.
You can't do that.
So I'm just thinking of ideas of like how to help artists with that, because that's a really tough one.
It is a tough one. I'm finding it difficult myself, to get into a good routine for that.
Do you have a routine? Do you do like any meditations?
Not really, Ryan.
No.
Not really. Okay. I know I have a problem in that.
It's not a problem.
It's not a problem. I mean, I need to find a solution to this non-problem, maybe, but I need to fix that, At least I know. I know that I need to do something that it will help me more, to be better focused,
But I also want to be careful and just caution everybody that we can always be doing more, right? Like You can always be doing more music. You can always have more gigs. You can always be working on yourself more. I also think it's really important to say like, hey, I know this is something I can work on. I don't need to do it right now. Like I can take some time to just like, it's something I'm going to move towards. I don't need to do a million things at once.
Exactly. Right. I know that before we started the show, you said that you do meditation. I never done meditation myself, but I did hear people, artists who are in the electronic music scene, that they actually practice meditation, and I think it helps.
Changed my life.
I mean, you can tell me more about it. That I think maybe I should try that.
I really like it. So my nervous system is like constantly on high alert.
And do you do that daily or
I try and do it once or twice a day.
Wow, okay.
My goal for 2023 was meditate every single day.
Okay.
I got close.
Okay.
I missed about 100 days.
Okay.
So for me, that's a win. For some people, that's a big fail. But what really helps me is just allowing myself to stop everything around me. So I think of it like this, the ocean, right? It's crazy. You have waves on the top. It's crazy at the surface. But if you dive down 100 meters,
it's quiet, it's peaceful. Peace.
Nothing moves. The fish maybe
That's a good example,
by. So
that's meditation, correct? Yeah.
That's how I see it, and there's different types of meditation. I've been practicing one that's just you're observing. Mm-hmm. All you do is observe what happens. Like I'll have a million thoughts just come through. Like I got to do this edit. Oh my God, I have to do this work. I got to publish this ad. I need to work on my record box. Mm-hmm. And my mind is just going crazy. And all I'm going to do is just watch all of that come through.
While you're doing meditation, correct?
Yeah. So that is the meditation, is just watching all of those thoughts come up and kind of letting them go. And the more I let them go, the more space I can create to move myself away from the anxiety, to move myself away from the I need to do this. And I end up just finding more peace, and that's what's happening in my mind. But in my body, because mind and body, I believe, is connected. In my body, my central nervous system is calming down.
Calming down.
So I'm not.
I'm sure it will help if you're an artist, or a traveling DJ.
For sure, because
I think it will help.
You're going from, oh my God, I need to get to the airport to get to this plane.
That's my life.
and then it's like, fuck, I'm 20 minutes late. I have to have my USB to go in here.
I can relate to that.
And then, what track am I going to play when I'm going to open up? Is my playlist organized? I imagine you're constantly thinking.
I can relate to that,
I spend a lot of time thinking of how artists think.
Yeah.
And just taking 5 minutes to just like put all that down and be like, you know what? I'm just going to breathe and just see all of this come by. For me, it helps a lot.
Wow.
And I found that it makes me less reactionary because I'm a very passionate and emotional person.
Okay.
So, somebody does something, I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah,
but now
I'm a bit like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe I should really try meditation.
I would encourage it. It's not for everybody.
Okay.
But I think everyone should do it.
Because I think it will help. But
try it. I'll share some things that have worked for me. I'll share them with you. No problem.
Amazing.
The last question I have for you is, we're going into 2024.
Yeah.
You've now shifted since 2018 to more of an international presence.
Rather. I still do my local events, but I'm not doing like 12 events here. Maybe I do 4 events, just to keep the progressive house scene running and alive in my country, So
cool.
I still do, but it's more international now.
What do you want to share going into 2024? What are some things that you have coming up that you're excited about that we can tell people about?
So more music productions. These past 2 years, I focused more on remixes. Because why? Remixes is more easy to do, and I haven't done a lot of originals. Why? Because of time and because of my studio setup, I had a very good studio setup, but set up for DJing, for live streams. I recently just stripped everything off, I'm rebuilding my studio again. Of course, I learned many things in these past 2-3 years, and of course I'm going to redo my DJ setup for streams and vinyl and streams, because I have a huge vinyl collection.
Cool.
But I also learned more how I can produce better music, so that's the one thing. I'm rebuilding my studio, and I'm also gonna fix my time a bit more in between tours. I'm gonna leave more gaps between tours so I can put more time into music production and release more original tracks rather than just remixes, so that's my goal for 2024. Of course, still touring and DJing all over the world, but I'm gonna release more original music.
Amazing. And what shows do you have coming up in the first, I guess, like 3 months? Do you have like any area of the world you're going to be in?
Yes, of course. Now we're at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I'm this coming Sunday, and this is being filmed during the Christmas weekend. I'm playing in San Luis, Argentina. Now I need to fly to Croatia to do the Orthodox Christmas show in Croatia, and then from Croatia I'm going to play in China. They just discovered progressive house, so I'm going to do China. Then from China I go and play in Australia, have 3 shows in Australia. Then from Australia I go to Thailand, to Koh Phangan, which I used to play in Koh Phangan for every year. I used to go there, although I wasn't popular over the world, but Koh Phangan in Thailand was a place where I used to DJ every year, and I haven't done it since pre-COVID. So I'm gonna go back and do multiple shows there. Then I go to India, and this will be the end of February. Then I go back to Malta to do my show. On the 16th of March, I'm doing an open to close show in Malta on March 16th. Then I go to Canada and US, which I'm still putting the dates together. So these are the first 3 months of the year,
Wow.
So I already know, what was gonna happen. And Sri Lanka then in April, and but at least I know the first 2-3 months was gonna happen.
So it sounds like little bit of South America towards the end of this year, then
China,
Australia, and
Asia, you know,
with a stop in Croatia.
So until February, at the end of February, I'm going to be touring non-stop. Still, at the same time, I have people working in my studio, you know, fixing my studio. Then I go back to Malta, and I will start leaving at least 2 weeks gap between every tour to focus on music production. And then I go back to tour, rather than go back to back with no time enough to go back to studio, because I can't work on my laptop on a plane trying to produce tracks. Forget it. I need to be in my studio. I don't work with my headphones. I need good sound, loud sound, and I have good acoustics as well. So I need to be in my studio to produce music.
I think that's really smart of you and wise.
You know? But again, there are people who work with their headphones. They're fine with it, but I can't. You know, I need good loud music in my ear, so I need to be in my studio.
That's amazing. And people can follow you on social media.
I'm very active on social media. YouTube, I upload tons of live mixes there. I'm always, at every gig, I'm always running with my 3 cameras, you know. Sometimes, the content is good to upload on YouTube. Sometimes the club is too dark, which I can't upload, but YouTube, which is youtube.com/DJRuby. Instagram, which is instagram.com/DJRubyOfficial. SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/DJRuby, or my official website, DJRubyOfficial.com, and then from my website, it takes you to all my social media pages.
Perfect, and we're going to link all those in the description below.
Thank you very much, Ryan.
Absolutely, and Ruby, thank you so much.
And thank you for your invitation. I think we had a very interesting conversation.
This was great, man.
And it's a pleasure for me to share my experience, you know, with yourself and your viewers.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Man.
Thank you.
Pleasure.